Hello, dear learners of English, as well as English teachers, I suppose might be also interested in listening into this. Today, I wanted to cover something that's being, if you are on Instagram following teachers, and when I say teachers, I mean the right teachers, this debate has been going on for a while, and the conclusion is, the question is, do natives or non-natives make better teachers? And the conclusion has been that no, it doesn't matter by a lot of people. And I wanted to make a podcast on this issue because I think it's not as black and white as that. So there are a number of things at play, really. Okay. So what is my background? If you're very good at discerning accents, you probably hear that I sound British, but I have a twang. That's because I'm originally Russian, but I grew up in the UK. So Russian used to be my first language, and then English became my first language. I grew up in a bilingual household. So how I gained fluency was through immersion as well as hard work. So it was natural immersion plus studying, learning, making an effort, molding my English at the same time as a learner. So I never say I'm native. I say I'm a native level teacher. So I'm kind of on the fence here when I have to judge what is better, native or non-native. So let me just tell you my thoughts on this matter. So yes, non-native teachers have the advantage because they were learners themselves. So they can empathize with you as a learner. They know what it takes to learn the language. They've been through the struggle and they just know the techniques and the strategies and the problems that you have as a learner. For example, with myself, my struggle with English was a long time ago, but as a struggle with other languages like French, Spanish, and Italian, for me, I can pre-guess what some of the mistakes are or what the learner is actually trying to say. So that can be really helpful to a student when the teacher doesn't just sit there and go, "What are you talking about?" They can identify many of the mistakes and predict and help and guide you. So that is really fantastic, okay? And I find that as a non-native teacher, you make more of an effort, probably. Because when you're a native, and I'm not saying this for all the teachers, but I'm saying there is a factor of I'm native, I already have an advantage, as many natives think. I'm not saying for the good teachers, I'm saying for the native, not the proper teachers who have decided to teach English as a foreign language, perhaps to travel or to explore the world, or because they just don't know what to do with their time. They maybe moved abroad and they're just trying to find something to do, and they're like, okay, I'm a native speaker of English, why don't I just teach English? And it's rather an interesting debate. So when I say non-natives have that advantage, I say that with a precaution. I don't want to put down any non-native teachers or who don't have native level in the language, the fluency, but I'm blown away by people who've had zero immersion and yet they reach fluency, like native fluency in English. You cannot tell that they're not native. That's just mind-blowing and admirable. And those are the teachers who are just incredible. Yeah, you have to take lessons with them. But the majority of non-native teachers do not have fluency. So they will keep making mistakes. To give you an example, I had a student who came to me and she claimed to be C1 level, advanced. When we started talking, there were so many intermediate level grammar mistakes. And that's my point, actually, for my intermediate grammar course, is that it helps. It helps to cover your basics. You cannot say you are fluent and then keep making intermediate level mistakes. It just doesn't work. And then I teach an iTalki, and I looked at her page, and her previous teacher left her a comment. You can do that. You can review your students sometimes if you want it. And the comment that was written just didn't sound like a natural English. It just didn't look or come across as natural. You could tell that a foreigner had written it. And yet there she was making a comment about her students' fluency. And I was thinking, well, you haven't gone too far, too beyond your student's level to comment on her level. And don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to come across as arrogant. So come off as arrogant. So natives make mistakes when they speak. That's true. But there is a difference between fundamental lack of knowledge of the structure of the language and making occasional slip-ups and making occasional mistakes when you talk. You cannot compare those. Sometimes when I speak, for example, I make a mistake, but then I'm like, oh, I just said something wrong. I correct myself immediately. There is a difference there, all right? And again, I'm admiring non-natives who were not immersed and reached fluency, but they're not the majority, guys. And the other point is, like, what are you learning English for as a student? Are you learning it to speak to other natives, to move to a country where English is a first language? Then perhaps you better learn from someone who speaks the same way. However, if you're going to speak English to other learners, other non-natives, perhaps you just want a solid intermediate level, and other learners, other people you want to talk to speak the same way, then perhaps it's okay. It's enough to not take lessons with a native speaker, okay? Now, for the native speakers, again, like I said, so many teach English for the wrong reasons. I'll be honest, I started teaching English for the wrong reasons. I just decided to experiment, give it a try, quickly realized I loved it and trained and learned how to teach properly. You know, I've been teaching for quite a few years now. And yes, the natives who are monolingual have a disadvantage that they cannot appreciate your struggles as a learner necessarily. I'm not saying all. I've seen monolingual teachers who are fantastic. They can empathize and they know the common learners' mistakes. But it's not quite the same. It's not quite the same that they cannot quite know your journey, the journey you're going through, the struggle you're going through. They don't quite understand that. So that makes a difference as well. And that's something to consider. Do you want the native speaker to identify with you? That's something to think about. The other thing I wanted to cover is the number of years of experience. And I think that's really an interesting factor. And that's what many teachers use as a factor. That I have so-and-so numbers of years of experience. So, of course, when you have experience, you learn, whether you like it or not, you do learn, okay? But the amount that you learn is down to your efforts and how willing you are to learn. And I say that to my students who ask me, how long will it take me to get to this level? How long will it take me to get fluent? It depends. It's not just about the time. It takes time, but it's coupled with effort. It's coupled with the right strategies. How willing are you to learn? How willing are you to adapt and adopt new strategies and absorb the knowledge? It's the same with teachers. You could be teaching for 5-10 years and not progress as much as someone who's taught for, say, 2 or 3 years, but has really put their mind to it. Or maybe it will be equal. So numbers of experience, yes, it helps. I mean, inevitably you learn as you are teaching. You pick up on common mistakes, you pick up on common questions, and hopefully you do learn how to answer them as well. But just saying I have a number of years of experience doesn't identify you as a good teacher straight away. Personally, I had to struggle a lot in the beginning of my teaching career. I did lots before and after every lesson. I did research. I looked things up on the internet. I was doing reading, analyzing. You know, I did struggle, and that struggle led me to become a better teacher. But I have reason to doubt that a number of teachers didn't do that. Maybe they just didn't. they didn't research, they didn't struggle, they didn't try to improve. So yeah, the willingness to learn, the desire, the motivation, I'm a massive perfectionist. So for me, it was imperative that my teaching methods were good, that I was actually helping people, that I could answer the questions, that I could take them to the next level. So yes, experience helps, but you don't, for example, get wiser with age necessarily. Yes, experience definitely helps, but how willing are you to learn? Or are you just making the same mistakes again and again? Or are you actually learning from them? That's up to you, to your motivation, to your effort as a student, as a person, as a teacher. So that really makes a difference. And the other thing I wanted to, just the final point to cover on native versus non-native teachers, is that people think that having the perfect accent, if the teacher comes with a perfect accent, whatever that is in the mind of the student, it will rub off on them. They will immediately pick it up. And if you are trying to become fluent, I say to my students, taking lessons with me is not enough. You must listen to other things. You must listen to the radio, to watch TV, You'll get exposed to a number of accents. And if you're looking for an accent to imitate, you're going to have to sit and practice in front of the mirror. You're going to have to sit and record yourself, listen to yourself, correct yourself. Yes, the teacher can do that during the lesson, but there's a limited factor there. So if your teacher doesn't have a so-called perfect accent, as long as their pronunciation is clear and correct, that's the most important thing, because you will not be picking up their accent. You'll be picking up their pronunciation guidance. Okay, so pick wisely. And sometimes you have to get it wrong to get it right. And that's okay. I've had students come to me after the teachers who maybe taught them incorrectly or maybe didn't help them progress. And that's all right. They did realize what they needed through making mistakes. But if you realize from the start what you need, what you want, and guys, I think it's as much a logical decision as it is an intuitive one. Follow your heart, You need to actually like your teacher. They might be the best teacher in the world in terms of their techniques and strategies and, maybe perfect pronunciation. But if you just don't like them, if you just don't feel like you can open up to them, a big factor for learning is opening up, dropping all the barriers, psychological, mental, emotional. And a good teacher will help you do that as long as you trust them to do that. And guys, when the barriers drop, magic happens. You start learning. All right, I'm talking from experience with my students and myself as a learner as well, So, best of luck in finding the best teacher for you, selecting the right one, your English learning journey. Take care. Thank you for listening to me today.